Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. And today I thought we would talk about dimension. We always talk about adding dimension to our card, or using dimensionals on our card, or shadowing and highlighting, and maybe using a embossing folder to give some texture. Dimension, 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 but we really don't talk about what is dimension. And if you look it up in the dictionary, you'll see several definitions of dimension. And a lot of them have to do with mathematics. And indeed, in card making, we do use the term dimension in that manner, in that we need the dimensions of the card, knowing that it's 5 1/4 by, or yes, 5 1/4 by 4 inches. That's not right. That would be the layer. 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. There we go. We want to know what are the dimensions of the layers and what are the measurements, which is another way of saying what are the dimensions, for any other pieces that we might cut out to put on our card. But another definition that I think we actually mean more than the mathematical ones is the way in which lifelike or realistic qualities are added to a card. And again, all of those things that I just named, like using texture or maybe layers and shading and even placing images on your card, where you place them in relationship to other images, all of that plays into the dimension and giving things that lifelike or a realistic quality. Or it doesn't mean it looks real, it just gives it that quality. For example, when we place, for example, this is up higher than the greeting. So in our minds, the little burrito here, is closer to us than the greeting. That's the kind of lifelike or realistic quality that's being talked about. One of the easiest ways to give that lifelike or realistic quality to our cards is, of course, by lifting up portions of the card. And we tend to do that more often than not with dimensionals or foam tape, whichever term you care to use. My nephew calls them pop-up dots. And those definitely work. And that is what I've done on these two cards. Now for these cards, I have used a retired Stampin' Up set called Taco Fiesta. I just think it is really, really cute. But you can use any stamps that you care to use. You can use any images. You can use any papers, any colors. This is just to give you some ideas so that you can make a card like this, but it's your very own, with your very own supplies. So first of all, we'll talk about this card. Now, many of you may recognize this card layout. It's one of my favorites. It's called Around the Block. And on my corresponding blog post, there will be a link to another blog post that will tell you how to create an Around the Block card. Many of you may know it's fairly easy. We'll kind of walk through it a little bit today, but there will on that blog post be a link to a place where I will tell you exactly how to do this. But on this card, the things that kind of help give things a lift, of course, I've put this focal panel. It's on dimensional, so it's raised up from the matte layer. And just the fact that we have different layers also adds a lift in some of that dimension. And then the little taco here is also on dimensionals, as is the greeting, which is on this word bubble. But also other things that give this taco some dimension. So I've paper pieced it. I stamped it on the gold colored cardstock and also on the green colored cardstock. Then I simply fussy cut just the shell part of the taco and adhered it to the green one that I've also fussy cut. Then I stamped the little face on it, and that gave it some dimension. But also around the edge here, before I adhered it to the green, I took a black marker and just went around the edge just to define the shell more, to define it and make it look away from and separate from the lettuce. And then before I put it on here, I drew some little legs and arms for that taco, giving it that realistic quality, even though we know tacos are, not human, but we did personify it a little bit there. So this one is basically the same, but a little bit inverted in that I've raised up the frame and the focal panel is behind the frame, but I've just adhered the greeting right to the focal panel, and then I did the same thing with this little burrito as I did with this taco. So by lifting the frame up and the burrito, it gives it multiple layers, just like with this one, and it gives it that dimension, and again, that lifelike or realistic quality. Now, when we open this up, they're both the same inside. I just like to show you the insides because I do try to kind of decorate them up a little bit. But here we have, Holy Guacamole, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. And it's the same on this one. But I thought I would walk you through how I did this frame. So what we need for this card, we're going to need a card base. And I have one here. And I already have the inside adhered. So there that is. And we're going to use this green this time as opposed to this, it's Lost Lagoon, and I believe this is Old Olive and Stampin' Up! Colors. And then we're going to need, of course, our burrito, and there's the two pieces, and you can see I've stamped a little bit different face on him. And our, oh, I got my greeting going backwards, but that's okay. We've got the Holy Guacamole, and this is our focal panel right here. And then we're going to need, for this, a piece of cardstock because we're going to be making the frame. Now on this one, as I've said in the past, you can adhere this directly to the card base if you're really good at being able to leave that equal border. Or you can take a piece of printer paper that is 5 1/4 by 4 and then just adhere your strips to it. And then put your focal panel right in the center and then just adhere the whole thing to the card. That's an option. But for this one, because we're going to make it a frame, and I just thought it needed to be a little sturdier than the paper. So I'll show you what I did. Now, as I said, this is 5 1/4 by 4. And before we put these on here, I'm going to grab the trimmer. Because there's two ways you can do this, but I'm going to show you on the trimmer first. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the 4-inch side here up against the top of the trimmer. I'm going to scoot it over to 1 inch. And then with my cutting blade, I'm going to scoot it up to 1 inch. And we're going to go from, I think, 1 to 3 inches because, yeah, nope, this is the 5 1/2 inch side. So we're going to go from 1 inch to 4 1/4. sure it's 4 1/4. Oops, I went just a little too far, but that will be okay. Now we're going to turn and put the 5 1/4 inch at the top, move it over to 1 inch, and then we're going to move from 1 inch to 3 inches. There we go. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other two sides. Put the 4 inch up here, get it to 1 inch. It's 1 inch over. And now we're going from 1 inch to 4 1/4. Now we're turning this and we're going over 1 inch. And go down to 1 inch. And then go to 3 inches. And now I may need to take some scissors to kind of get this the rest of the way out, but it's pretty good. Actually, I have my, this is a self-healing mat, and I have my little craft knife here. Just make a little cut, and then make another little cut. Does that do it? Yep. Now, we're going to adhere these pieces onto here. But if you didn't want to use the trimmer, what you can do is adhere these pieces on first. And then once they're adhered, you can take your craft knife and just cut along the edges of the pieces of paper, and then the center will pop right out. So let's put this away, and I better put the cover on this or I'll probably cut myself. And get our mat and put our frame together. You can use any kind of adhesive you want. If you prefer to use liquid adhesive, that's fine. If you want to use some kind of a tape runner, that's fine too. And I'm going to line it up. And on this one, in case you need to cut any extra off, it's best to line it up with this center. Make sure the center is covered. See, on that one, that's good. The top's covered too. But in case this was just a little bit taller than what we needed, you could, by lining it up with the center, then you can trim off anything that needs to be trimmed off. And now we're got that first one. This one should be a lot easier. The first one's usually the toughest. There's that one. I think I'll put this one on and then put the other long one on. And for this around the block card, these strips, they can be all the same, like they were for this card. Or they can be 2 different patterns, or they could be 4 different patterns, or 3 if you want. It's totally up to you. That's the fun thing about card making. There really aren't a lot of hard rules. You can kind of just do everything your way. Let me get this all lined up. And there we go. There is our frame. And we can get ready to adhere that to our card. Oh, no, we don't want to use that. We want to use dimensionals. Silly me. That was a near disaster. Got some dimensionals. Some of the little edge pieces here. They come in so handy, especially for things like this, where you have a very long, I guess that wants to come off, a very long space that you need to cover. Oh, got that sheet finished. Move on to this one. Just going to cut off these little edges. Another sheet finished. Yay! Let's see, I need a long one. Put that right here on the adhesive. It should stick really well. And I think I want to put a little piece there. And maybe right here. Now remove all the backings that didn't come off. Oops. Okay, now you go right back there. Oh, I see, it's got the backing. Well, we'll just stick that right there. Okay. It'll all come off. And I think we got a couple more. Okay, now we're ready to put this on the card base. Make sure I got it correct, yes. There we go. Well, now that was really stupid because I need to get this under there. Batting 1,000 today, aren't I? Well, never worry, we can take care of this. That came from there. We can just cut this just perfectly. Just cut it just a teensy bit bigger. See, this is why I don't like to edit. I like for you to see that I make mistakes, because I do. But the thing we do learn from mistakes, but we also learn to correct them. And that's what we're doing right here. Now, it would have been so much easier to have had this larger piece under there, but I don't have that option right now because I was just in too big of a hurry. So I think if I can just slide this in here, I think that's going to work. Just going to put a little bit of adhesive in the center, kind of make it not quite so sticky. Slide that in, slide it up, and slide it over just a bit. And I got to get it down here. Yeah, this day is really kind of weird. Okay, there, I think we got it. There we go. Now we can put our burrito on there and the put the greeting. Now, here's our burrito. Like I said, I've cut it out. I stamped it twice and cut it out. I cut the lettuce or whatever off of this one. And like I told you, I'm going to use a marker. I'm going to use the brush tip. And I'm just going to go around the outside, just to give it a little more definition. And also this will just help separate it from the green, make it stand out a little more, give it that dimension that we like. And there we go. Now I'll put a little adhesive on this and hopefully get these two together just fine. There we go. Now I could put him on dimensionals, but let's just say you're out of dimensionals. What do you do? Well, I took some cardstock. Actually, I took 3 pieces of cardstock and I cut them so that they would fit behind him without showing. And then I just adhered the 3 pieces together. Now, what this is going to do, besides just elevate him, it will elevate him, but it will also keep him just a wee bit shorter, a wee bit below the dimensionals that we used for the border. So he won't be quite as tall as the border. And that kind of helps to add to the dimension too, when you can have different heights. So let's see, let's get these on here, and then we don't want to forget, because I'm likely to, I want to draw his little feet, his legs and his arms. So we have this, and what I did, I just flipped him over, and I took that same marker, but I took the other end, and I just, okay, this is where he is. I'm going to draw a little line here. Okay, that's good. Then I'm going to draw another little line down here. And then I'll draw his feet. Don't have to do anything fancy. You can if you want. I'm just not all that great of an artist. But I thought with this stamp set, it can be a little, just stick arms and legs will be just fine. And he's not quite attached there. That's okay. We can go right back in. And he's attached. Now I just need to put this in. And on this sample, as you can see, I just adhered it right to the panel. So there we go. That is how I added some dimension to cards just by lifting up certain portions of the card, whether it's the burrito, the taco, whether it's the focal panel or a frame or the greeting. All of these additions add some dimension to a card. I want to thank you for joining me today, and once again, everything, all of these cards will be on my corresponding blog post. Their cutting measurements, the supplies that I used, and the link to how to make this around the block card. Those will all be on my corresponding blog post, and the link to that blog post can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, stamp happy!